Right, so you've got my kit with me. You do know I've never cast a fly, so you've got your work cut out, Rick. You know that, don't you?
Well, we'll see what we can do.
So you've got me. I've got a rod.
Yeah.
We got nets.
Your basic 8-weight rod.
Yeah.
There's a couple there.
Okay.
That's your one.
Thank you. Not really the best conditions for surface fishing, is it? No. But you know what, let's see if we can...
the wind keeps on changing too by the look of it.
Yeah, it's swirling round a bit. Okay.
Where'd I put the flies?
In there.
In there. You got it.
Let's have a little
Carp.
Look. Carps.
That's right, mate. So all sorts. Some of them I've bought, most of them I've made.
You made
yeah.
Are they deer hair?
So that's right, yeah, deer hair, which is hollow.
Yeah.
And you know, so it's a natural floater.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a pretty good colour match for the sort of mixers and stuff which I can out. So we've got a white and grey on yours. Let's go for a bright white on this.
And if you catch, I'll go and
Then you switch over, yeah. So yeah, do that.
I've seen people doing this before and thought, well, you know, it looks so much fun. So now you're going to probably lose your temper with me on a few occasions, you know, because I'm not very good at it. I can cast like this a long way, but I'm not very good at it.
Straight that is, you know, just doesn't pigtail.
No, I know.
And that's one of my criteria.
Okay, let's nip that off that little.
Okay, mate. Oops.
Go on. Right, yeah.
So that's basically it. And it's a nice way of free lining.
Yeah.
You know, you've got no controller to splash down there with the fish. And,
sort of laying the line over it.
You know, hopefully, I mean, all that comes with practice. You ain't going to be doing, you know, no one's going to be doing that straight up. But
should we get some mixes going out there?
Yeah, let's get some bait out. Get them going well before we.
So you bait, it's not the old way.
Yeah, you know, if you chuck something on them straight away, you're spooking them. You know, they get fish for a fair bit.
Right.
So nice to get them going, but it's difficult today. It seems like there was a lot of rain last night.
Could have pushed them down.
And usually you see 1 or 2 fish on the surface, but let's have a go and see if we can get them up.
So I'm going to watch you cast a few times to sort of learn the knack, shall we say?
Yeah, in fact, you've got a fish coming up there.
Oh, hello.
Let's chuck a bit more out.
So
that's right, just pull that off the reel.
Yeah.
Take your hook, set the drag, it's all done. So get that out of there. So you see how easy you can see it.
So you're putting out quite a bit, obviously, because that's how far you want to go out. So
you've got to. This one, that's why I stuck this line on. The head, the first 30 foot is the bit you cast.
Yeah.
So this has got a green and orange. By the time you get to the, you see that mark by the rod tip?
Yeah.
That's 30 feet.
Right, okay.
So, you know, I kind of know where I am. If you can, but when you first start fishing, you can't chuck all that lot out.
It's the action I'm watching. I think I'm gonna.
Yeah, the principle is you've got to go to a dead stop.
Stop.
Yeah,
and then
that's right.
Forward.
And then go forward, dead stop. That's the secret of it. So you can get a fairly good chuck there, and it lands nice and soft. So I'd leave that there for a second and put a bit of bait round it. Or you hang on to that.
Oh, I'll hang on to that. It's going to be fun. The next thing is getting them in.
There's a fish just the other side.
Yeah, look, he's at the back.
It's a bit awkward with the wind at the moment because...
I think there's one just below. Hold on, look. See a bit of a
you've got a fish feeding. Can you see yours?
Yeah. Oh, no.
Yeah.
This is so exciting.
He's there. Give him a split second if he takes it.
Do you watch the leader move before you strike?
I mean, they spit it out quick.
Yeah.
So you've got to, you know, the timing's everything. And,
so I've got to just keep, I'm just trying to keep a little bit of tension.
As it takes it, strike.
Yeah.
You can strike sideways if you like, keep it low.
Okay.
Don't go too hard on the strike or you flip the line right up, behind us.
Yeah, he's disappeared now. He was there.
I'll put a bit more
Yeah, get a couple
upwind of
more.
him. Do you want us to chuck that out again? So to that far one.
Yeah, let's just.
Shall we? Yeah, give us that sec.
Because we want to get.
You want to get a fish.
You've done that before, haven't you?
Yeah, try that, mate.
It's almost sometimes when.
There he is, right on it.
It's almost when they first land. Here he goes.
Yeah.
Oh, is it the one at the back?
He's-
No, it was the one at the back. He's just. Look,
yeah, when they disturb it like that, the hook always coming up for it now. Isn't he? Yeah. Out! Yo!
Oh!
You half caught a carp.
Did I do anything wrong?
No.
I think the strike was all right. It was nice. I just pulled that.
Fish's fault.
So is it, obviously you stopped fishing, you don't really fish with bite alarms or what we call on bottom anymore. You just, this is where you get your...
That's what I do nowadays.
Yeah, because I know you've got a mass collection of rods and reels and fly rods.
Yeah.
We're always getting delivered to Gardner Tackle.
Yeah.
So, we've got a couple going now, Rick.
No, I
Look,
find, it's something you can do after work quickly.
Yeah, short session.
You've got a bag of mixers in the van.
Yeah.
And you can stop in when the conditions feel right.
Yeah.
And I like the visual side of it. I'd be fishing with a controller.
It's instant fishing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's, and like I say, you're not barring your gear around, you're not camping out.
No. And I personally like, I'm old school, so I like, hook a fish without a whole lot of lead on the line.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you play one in on a light rod, these are lighter than Avon rods.
Yeah.
And you play a fish in on that. That's not so good now, the way it's drifting in the wind.
Wind's blowing
but you
us
can't
around.
help it because of the bow in the line. Oh, you got a fish coming up
I
on
know,
the
look,
right.
he's just, I reckon I might could drop into that one's right on his nose.
Yeah. I think that's what they're doing. They're drifting away on the bait.
Yeah. It's a shame that's ain't drifting with it. But yeah, they've been very sneaky, haven't they? They're not.
They are.
Oh, there's just one there. What we'll do, Rick, is we'll see if this one takes it, but maybe we'll go down and have a little sit down and bite to eat.
I could do with a bite to eat, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something to drink.
Yeah, we've got. I just want one of these to take.
I know.
Tell you what, let's
It gets
leave
you
this.
going, doesn't it?
I'm addicted already, actually. I think I might
Yeah.
take this rod with me.
I
but
mean, that's the.
well, we can go and break.
Well, you could do it pretty cheaply. I mean, that's a Shakespeare rod, cost about 45 quid, and the reel's about 40. Fly line 20.
100 quid you got.
Yeah, that's for 100 quid you set up.
Okay.
And that'll do you all, all your trouting and all. God, those two.
Look. Well, look, what we'll do.
Knock it on the head for
We're
now.
really going to have a cup of tea, eh?
Yeah.
Have some lunch. He's drifted off now.
Yeah.
But I think the sun out's helping a little bit, so that.
Yeah. Now we keep the food coming in and we'll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop for a bite to eat. Right, I'm going to build this in now then.
Wind that in.
Obviously, we failed catching a fish, but we're going to go back there in a little while.
Oh, for sure, Christ.
Because I've got to get, we've got to go in there. But
yeah.
Obviously, we want to talk about you because you're Mr. Gardner as well as Michelle. And, our company has been around for over 40 years now.
Yeah.
And, it's brought a lot of products to the brand and to the carp scene as well. But we'll dive a bit more into that a little bit later on, but a little bit more about you. Have you always been a fisherman? Have you, lived locally and always had it in your blood, I think, didn't you? You're an angler.
Yeah. Well, I started up because I was brought up over in India until I was 10 years old. So, my earliest fishing I remember was with a hand line off the rocks.
Yeah.
Stuff I've no idea what it was we caught,
Yeah.
So there was a bit of that. But it really got going at about, I guess, 10 or 11 years of age.
Yeah.
When it's like any old angler, you're on your bike,
Yeah.
you're keen as mustard, and you're starting the rungs of the ladder.
Progression
Yeah,
up
that's
the
right.
ladder.
You're catching perch and bream, little silverfish. And
what was you catching in India, out of curiosity? I mean, when you was in India, what kind of fish were you catching out there?
Well, the only ones we caught were sea fish, and probably mullet type things, and I mean, it was that long ago. It was 75 years ago.
He was only 21.
Right.
So after that, about 10 years, you then came to the UK, and then you carried on your fishing over here, and like I say, every like what we all do, the perch, the roach, and ruds, and
it's probably the same old story as most keen anglers. That's how you start out. I mean, nowadays people start out going straight out to 20-pound carp. But in those days, you caught whatever you could. There weren't all the waters around with the big carp in them.
All the equipment, let's be brutal.
All the gear. And and so it was, most of my early fishing was on rivers.
Right.
And, some tidal rivers like the Ada and stuff. And then you just sort of gradually graduate.
It's your apprenticeship, I think we called it, don't we? So your apprenticeship sort of working your way up.
But I got into piking earlier on. I had a roach in a river that I was, just bringing in. And a pike come up and took that in a big swirl, And first time the reel had gone. And... that made me just think, God, I've got to catch those things. That's a predator too. So that kind of turned me into a pike angler, and I got into that, and it was also seasonal at the time. I was working a lot in the summer, and you could go. You had time to go fishing in the winter, so I concentrated on that, and gradually worked my way up. Had a couple of 30s during that time. From Paper Court and Big Frensham, and it's just there's just something about piking in the winter that I like doing.
And what was he doing for work then? Because obviously this is pre Gardner Tackle, which we'll come on to in a little while.
I was working around different farms doing relief milking.
Right.
So when the cowman had a day off, I'd go in for the day and relieve there, and then the next day I'd go to a different farm and so on. So it's self-employed. Which has its pros and cons, And the trouble is, during that time, I just got married. We needed the money coming in, so fishing had to take a bit of a back.
I think it does with everybody, doesn't it?
You go through stages. Before that, you could go anytime you wanted. When you're retired, you can go anytime. But that time you had to balance it. So, but gradually, the winter carping thing came on. And I sort of gave up the piking because it was easier, if you like, to catch winter carp. And so
because there was that myth years ago that you couldn't catch carp in the winter, wasn't there? Was that what sort of got ignite the flame a little bit for you? And they fought well, and there were by then number of waters around with them in, and just sort of gradually changed onto the carping thing. And at that time it was also becoming more and more popular anyway. And and then the business started really because I started making up bits that I didn't have. So that's where it all started really, because obviously a lot of people wouldn't realise, but something all anglers use every day without even thinking about where they come from was buzz bars and bank sticks and things like that. So you sort of come up with them ideas purely because you wasn't happy with what you was using.
The buzzer bars were the first thing we made, and then we went for the solid pointed bank sticks. I mean, at that time you had the swaged ends, and you couldn't put them into gravel or anything. Disaster. And so that was a second product, if you like, that started to really take off. The solid pointed bank sticks, and then there's all the gadgets, I mean, we were using knitting needles and things to put hairs, to put baits on hairs. So we got in touch with Partridge, who were the big hook makers, English hook makers at the time, and got them to make us some straight needles with big barbs.
So you could obviously put a load of boilies on one needle and run it straight
people started that way, and then I think it was Hutchie popularised stringers. So we started. We built a machine, in fact, that would twist up the PVA. It was
still in our office now, actually, isn't it?
And,
So I mean, that's another one. So we obviously you bought the braided hair needle, the boilie needle to the market.
That was the next thing, because you then wanted to put 6 baits on a hair, so you needed a long thin needle, to pull through all the baits, make yourself a stringer. Didn't want a big hole through the baits so they'd take on water, So that was one of the earlier products as well, and then of course the bait making gear.
Now that's we still sell. Crikey a lot, because I think a lot of people still probably enjoy making bait as well, especially in the winter months. We see our sales of the rolling tables go up in the winter because people want to make their own pop-ups and stuff like that. So where did that come around? You was obviously just making bait yourself, and
you made baits by trying to roll 5 at once and all that sort of thing. That was the cred bit, and I'd heard of this pill making machine.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what it looked like. People had said, they used to make pills in the old days out of these channels or something.
Yeah.
And I mucked around with different things. I mucked around with guttering. I mucked around with some other stuff that you could put on the wheel of a car and drive along and try and turn it around.
I remember you told me about this. And tell me the experiment you've done where you was trying to get the consistency right, wasn't you, or something?
Well, yeah, what I noticed was that you get a lump of mud.
Yeah.
In between 2 tractor wheels.
Yeah.
And as during the day, that rolls into a ball.
Yeah.
So that was the sort of principle we started out. You've got to remember, if you don't know these things, you start from a long way behind, And the early experiments with that were making a sort of drum that you could revolve and hope that it knocked the corners off them and turn them into round balls, which was a bit optimistic looking back. I tried one of those out, bolting it onto a hubcap, and drove up and down the lane, and it did round them a little bit.
I just want to know what your neighbours were thinking.
Took the lid off and they come out as little squares. And and then I thought, well, they'll round even better if I go on a longer journey with them, So I did about a mile and come back. And just a load of dust came out. So that was as far as that idea went.
So then we progressed obviously onto the rolling tables.
Worked out the channels. The first ones you make with little bits of guttering and stuff like that, see if you could roll stuff in them. And then we got an early prototype back at the factory, where we proceeded to sort of, make the whole thing work by putting a sausage across it, rolling it like that. And then we came out with the original bait makers. Yeah. And
I think every bait company, big bait company, has started on them tables, haven't they?
There's a heck of a lot of companies that still use the
still use them now. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think when some people are making test baits, even people making a test bait, and they're just playing around, they'll often still use our tables.
We'd still get them, inquiries from blokes who, we do a trade deal on them because they're making baits from home, just like we started up.
Yeah. And then the sausage guns, obviously, the sausage guns is
I mean, originally you cut up, you made a ball, rolled it into a sausage, put it across the channels and went that way. Yeah. And then you found, with the old mastic gun type thing, you could make the different size nozzles. Yeah. Because you want obviously that for the different channel sizes. Yeah. And it took a while because, it's easier. You forget how good your hand is, and your hand's a machine, your brain's connected to it. And that is as good as you get for knowing what, you try and make a bait maker that knows all that, So, you had to approach it from a slightly different angle and make the baits a bit more, add some more eggs to the mix to bind them up more. But soon the bait companies sort of worked along with us on that. Yeah. And, we got the things rolling well, and, they're still going today. They've been going 30 odd years.
And look how much bait they roll nowadays. I mean, looking for someone like yourself who's been there from the beginning, as obviously Gardner is one of them old companies that's been there from day dot. How do you see the industry these days? I mean, it's so progressive.
It's just changed so much. I mean, to be honest, in those days, there weren't jobs in carp fishing. No. Whereas now there's all sorts of jobs in the various, branches and spin-offs from it. It was early days. There was nowhere near the waters we had and that sort of stuff.
Or the fish, really, because the fish are bred in vast amounts now to fill these lakes and things like that.
Came out with that 44 No, the
Clarissa.
51. But you know, up until then, the biggest carp had been 28 or so.
Yeah.
You know, and suddenly they just went like that. You know,
Yeah.
and in those days, you know, days of Hutchie and Maddox when they started out, that was, you know, 20 was still a really good fish.
Well, it's still, you know, 20 is still a lovely fish now. It's sort of like, you know, it's still a specimen carp, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, but that was something we all aspired to. And I remember Hutchinson he had his own album of 20s.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, to think of that these days, you know, then it went on to our album of 30s. Well, now it's 40s and 50s and whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So yeah, and you know, we came through. You just watched that progression as you went along, year by year, and you know, I suppose we started out in garages, you know, and the first couple of people you employ were fishing friends, and you know, you're all making gear there,
yeah,
and you know, shipping in the aluminium, drilling, tapping it, everything, and we'd taken in turns to jump in a van and drive around the shops. You know, and in those days there was no M25, no internet, you know,
no Google Maps.
No. In fact, you'd drive up to London and go into a phone booth, you know, open the Yellow Pages if there was one there,
yeah,
and you know, just go to the local tackle shops, just, you know, go in.
Nice.
And I remember going into one big London one, and you know, went up to the counter with a cardboard box full of these buzzer bars, no branding in those days or anything, you know. And the bloke, you know, took one look at it and he threw it across the shop back into the box and said, "You'll never sell them, mate."
And then look.
And he phoned us up about 3 weeks later because the shops around him were all selling them.
Everyone's
and
going
he wanted me to come back. So yeah, that was what it was like.
Yeah.
You know, most of the shops were match shops, really.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, it was a small section of carp, wasn't it?
You did. You know, you had Simpsons and Alan Brown's, the carp seller at Watford. You know, those were the early ones that got onto it, started selling. You know, purpose-built carp rods. At the time, it was Mitchell 300s and Abu 55s. They were the only reels, really.
Yeah.
So, you know, and it's progressed so much from that. 10-foot rods, you know, those were your
13s
stepped up one was your long casting rod.
That's crazy.
You know, 100 yards was within your range.
Oh, now they've gone
And
a lot further.
now, now people are fishing at, you know, 150. So,
Plus.
yeah.
It's crazy. Well, look, listen, I'm going to make quickly another cup of tea, Rick. Do you want another cup of tea? And then we'll dive a little bit more into some of the other things you've done over the years as well.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. I'd like to get back on them fish.
Yeah, definitely.
You baited up.
I've done a bit of baiting up. Got them going again, although the wind's picked up a bit. But that's another great way to go into the next subject, because baiting up.
Yeah.
Bait rockets.
Bait rockets.
Another thing you brought to the market. So tell us a little bit more about where that all stemmed from.
Yeah, I mean, you know, back in those days there wasn't anything available in the shops, but people were making their own out of various different containers and stuff, you know.
I mean, there used to be fairy liquid bottles at one point.
Yeah,
I remember making about fairy liquid bottles.
Drill holes in them, there were all sorts of shapes and sizes. And we brought out one that mainly for particles, you know, with a lot of holes in it.
Yeah.
And that was our first bait rocket of any sort. But it really took off when we brought out the pocket rockets.
Yeah.
That was something, they were small enough and light enough to cast on a normal rod.
And some people still use them now because I would probably say it's got the best flight on them, without a shadow of a doubt. And there's still some old school anglers that really like them because they can go the distance.
We did a casting contest out in the field, and so one of the guys got 172 yards out of one. You know.
Wow.
So no, they're aerodynamic, and they were nice for chucking out a few boilies. You know? And that really got, you know, the sales of those went mad.
Yeah.
You know, they just really, you know, hit the market, and they were very, you know, user friendly. That's right. Yeah.
And then I remember after that, I had one myself. It was the black rocket with the brass slider on it, which stopped any spill coming out the back. And used to sort of clip the lid on the back as well.
Because you know, that was one of the things, you'd cast a rocket and half of it come out the back. So we mucked around with trying to sort that out, you know. You know, when it's early days, you just go off on different routes. and eventually you end up with what you've got today. You know, then of course the SPOM come along.
Yeah, and that's what they all use now. Don't get me wrong, but you know, again, nothing that Gardner brought to the market is, you know, one of them. But you know, from the bait rocket, moving on from that, we are still known as a company as well that's known for terminal tackle lines. I mean, we're really well known for our line, and a lot of that I'd say is down to you because of your knowledge. I do see you as a bit of a god with line.
You know, and work out exactly what you want out of line. I mean, we've always gone for breaking strain is top of the list.
Yeah.
You know, so you work with the manufacturers and then you put abrasion into it, softness, and they can counter one another to an extent. So you end up trying different mixes before, you know, we come out with something that, you know, is specialist either for long casting or for snags.
Yeah.
You know, we've got the abrasion machine. So
I was going to say that machine is, you know, we took it to a show. I think it was Zwalla show then, it's now Carp then Bosch, but we took it out to Zwal one year. And the amount of people just fascinated by it. So it's a you know, if I could describe, I'm sure we'll probably put some B-roll over, but so, you know, the abrasive pads, and we just test it as we know.
It's got a counter on it and tell you how many strokes. You know? And you know, an average line will do about 300 or 400 strokes. Some of the high abrasion ones will go up nearly 800.
Yeah.
So there's quite a difference, you know, you want one line for snags. But above all, it's breaking strain because that's what loses the most fish.
And it's always, obviously, any line is always weakest on the knot, isn't it? And that's where you've always
so not friendly.
Yeah.
You know, because you can get some lovely lines, but they just, you know, you lose 20% on the knot, especially braids.
Yeah.
And so our monos have gone that way, and it's reliability. You know, we've had some record fish on them, and you know, very pleased with them. Yeah. Very pleased. And there's a good section, you know, good selection, if you like.
And I think people always trust us for that as well because of the amount of testing we put into it, you know, and there is some people that will only use Gardner
it's interesting because you do, like anyone else, you get the odd spool back where someone says, oh, that broke. Well, I end up using those spools because we test them. You know, and I think I can't chuck that away. But, you know, it probably was a bad knot. And, you know, that's what's responsible for a heck of a lot. And the way you pull a knot down.
Bed the knots down again, wet, and really teasing them down and whatnot.
Moisture it and, you know, so there's, they are, you know, to me, the most critical parts of your fishing are sharp hooks and good knots. You know, you sort that out. Sort the fish's end of it out, and you know, your end. You
the last
can
4 foot on it, really.
Really,
you know? The rest of it's just almost fashion.
The fish doesn't see your setup, but you know that's the important bit. And you know, so that's where we start from.
Braids as well. We're known for our braids. We've got some great braids in our, you know, we've got Dyneema, so we use some very good braids. And you know, another thing that we do, obviously, you'll probably explain better as well, is when we're doing our diameters. You know, we don't crush our braid.
There is a tendency that, you know, you get them on a mic and you can do it with mono because it's round, you know, anyway, and you can get the diameter dead easy, but you tighten a micrometer down on braid and it squashes it, and you get the totally wrong reading. And you know, a lot of people call that the diameter. Well, we mic it and make sure that you can move it slowly through the jaws of the mic, and that's thicker. It measures thicker, but that is the true diameter. That's the true diameter, and that corresponds to the mono diameter. You know, if you got a spool of 400 yards, you could put the braid on, you know, the way we measure it, and it'll be the same as 400 yards of mono. So you know, it's a bit of a black art, the braid, you know, and it was relatively new on the market when we, you know, years ago when we took it up.
And it's, you know, it seems to be getting more popular. A lot of fisheries sort of ban braids now, I think, don't they? But, you know, I think in the right hands. In the right hands, I don't think, you know, it's one of those, if you can catch them on mono, stick to it. Because it's user-friendly, it's cheap, etc. But there's a lot of circumstances where braid will, you know, give you an edge.
Especially weeds, things like that.
I mean, you know, cuts through weed. You've got that bite indication you want. You can fit a lot on a spool, you know, and it's certainly taken off. But once again, you need to be more careful with your knots on braid, because the stuff just isn't knot friendly. None of it is, and so Yeah.
I mean, you blow me away when we do knots, because whenever I'm testing any new line, I'm always like, Rick, I need you in. I need you to test this, because you are the man of many knots. So,
many knots, yeah.
And you do know how to tie decent knots. But, you know, going forward from there, like I say, we've always been known for our lines, our hooks, and innovating products to the industry. You know, many have been copied, but, you know, a lot of people, maybe the younger generation watching this, won't realise how much you brought to the market, you know.
I think we introduced about 20 products that we had to make names for.
Yeah.
You know, and some of them, like baiting needles, people were using homemade ones, and we come up with a commercial one. You know, screwing brolly poles.
Yeah.
You know, there was nothing like that until, you know, we brought out the solid one. We still sell it today.
Yeah.
You know, there's a number of products that are 30 years old that have, you know, stood the test of time.
Still current sellers with us now. Weed rakes, things like that. You know, the weed rakes
have gone like mad. And
it's all moving, but going forward as well, I mean, like, you know, we'll catch up to where we are currently now. I mean, but, you know, we have always distributed Enterprise. We've always had a good relationship with Chris from Enterprise.
Carp Company. You know, they were there from more or less day one. You know, a nice group of other things that we don't sell that we can, you know, put on the market and distribute. So we've had some good relationships with these people for years, and we're still with them.
And we've still got, again, now with Spiro, you know, we got Spiro on board, and we're doing great with Spiro. And you got some of the clothing on there.
Well thought out stuff. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But, you know, I think, you know, when that first came to us, I was looking for something that, getting some younger brands on board, you know, and that was one of them. That's, you know, they're great guys. We work closely with them now, and we're doing the luggage with them and whatnot. And, you know, it bolsters up our brand. I think that's what I'm trying to say, is it's bolstering the brand.
We work well with them, and, you know, we all started from humble beginnings. And, you know, here we are today.
Yeah.
You know, fishing away.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So how do you see the brand now? I mean, you know, it's like you've taken a back step now, obviously. You just go fly fishing.
Well, it was funny, because in the early days, I mean, you know, we were 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, for a long time, we were about half a dozen people working out of small workshops, you know, making everything in England. And, you know, we'd take it in turns to jump on the van and go drive around and you know, cold call into shops. And, you know, we didn't even brand stuff in those days. You know, it was quite a while before we had cards printed and stuck them on a plastic bag.
Where did the name, obviously you are Richard Gardner.
Yeah.
But you was thinking of a name for the brand, and how did that actually come around?
That was funny, because, we'd started selling, we'd started mail ordering stuff in a small way, you know, and I was doing 2 jobs. And Mitch was selling the stuff, you know, posting out stuff. We got a little book with all these names in it, the Hutchinsons, the Maddoxes and people, you know, who were buying stuff. And so that's how it started out. And it was basically a workshop with a bunch of keen fishermen, you know, chatting about fishing whilst we made buzzer bars and bank sticks. And then, of course, it changes. It has to change. Yeah. The whole trade developed into the carping industry we have today. So, and also China came into it. A lot of firms came in after us and took stuff that was on the market and took it over to China. Yeah. And obviously, you know, the tackle wouldn't be as cheap today if we were all trying to make it in England.
Or as mass made, I don't think.
We still make quite a lot. We make everything we possibly can. Still in England. All the bait making stuff, you know, that's 35 years old, I think. You know, that's still moulded in England out of decent material. So, you know, you try and do that as much as you can, but if it's going to cost too much, you simply can't do it. No. And, you know, that's how the market's gone. And, you know, instead of having the main workshop and a little bit of storage, now we're a lot of storage. We've got to be able to take a container, lorries in every few days.
We do, don't we?
And, you know, and then it's become not rather like now, you know, you brand your stuff and, you know, you get more and more involved with that. Yeah. And the whole thing at every level has become more professional. Yeah. And, you know, so that's how the thing's changed, mate. Yeah. The fishing hasn't changed too much, but the whole industry, the amount of mags. You know, when we started, there was a couple of weeklies, Then you get one carp mag, then another. Next minute you got 10.
Well, it's mad because really, like I said, the magazines are slowly starting taking off now because it's all gone digital now, isn't it?
Yes,
Everything is like what we're doing with the guys here now, cameras and social medias. So I know you do Facebook because we chat a lot, you're up to date on Facebook and whatnot, but I think you're working on Instagram at the moment, but, I think that is Instagram.
Oh, right, okay.
But that's the way it's going now, the magazines are slowly subsiding now, it's all going to channels, shall we say, for fishing and whatnot. And it's great because I think anyone getting into carp fishing, there's a lot of...
You've never had it so good. And Walker predicted this years ago, as the river fishing was getting more tough. I mean, the muck that's going into our rivers these days, it's just unbelievable. But, here we've got a place with a dozen lakes up here, and you could catch carp, in all of them. And some of them are more beginner lakes. I mean, in fact, the one we're fishing now, that had a 31 lip recently.
I think, it was the guy who's it runs these lakes?
Paul the bailiff.
Come around and had a chat.
And he was saying they've had a 40 from a bloke who...
And I think he had a 34 about an hour later as well.
That's right, he left the other rod out and had a 34 on it.
Well, that's not
out
bad,
the top lake. And that's
for,
you could do that on a day ticket. You caught them during the day.
And there's lots of, there's so many lakes out there now, so anyone trying to get into it, there's plenty of info online, and
there is,
the lakes are there for them to go to, and it's nice to see. I think since COVID, there was a massive increase again in fishing, which was a lovely thing to see. People started spending time in the UK
fishing,
a bit more.
And it's important to have lakes like that. That you could start off. You see a lot of kids up here. Their dads bring them down, and they're tomorrow's carp angler.
Exactly.
And and it's best to start out with trying to catch a double. Then try and get 15 pounds for the next target, and keep on going, rather than coming in and you want a 20 just because they're in the bags, or you want a 40 for God's sake. It's that apprenticeship bit in a way, and steps of the ladder. If you
to enjoy
take them all, you enjoy them all. So that's where
talking about that.
There's
a few fish taking a few baits out there, and I've got to try and get one on the fly rod.
We've got to get.
Should we have one a little crack?
I think so.
Come on, let's go.
So, Mum, take me back to 1980 and where it all began.
Well, it began when Dad was fishing, and he suddenly realised that he was fishing 2 rods, rather than having 2 bank sticks, or 4 bank sticks basically, back and front for 2 rods, wouldn't it be a good idea to have a little horizontal bar that would take the 2 rods, and it would be neater, lighter, less hassle, etc., etc. So he made himself these little bars, and we called them buzzer bars because the buzzers went on top, or rod rest heads. And they worked well. He used them for his own fishing, and people would come up to him on the bank and say, "Oh, they're nice, mate. Where'd you get those?" And obviously, they couldn't get them anywhere because Rick had made them for himself. So he thought, well, hang on, people seem to be interested. I'll make some and see if the shops are interested. Plus, we decided we might as well do a little classified advert in the Angling Times and see if anyone wants to buy them. So there's no online in those days, obviously. So that's what we did. We did this little classified advert, and I think the first advert had 4-6 replies. I couldn't believe it. It was
so
just.
That was all mail order? That
was mail order, yes. So they'd send their check in, and I would post out the bars, and everybody was happy. Then Dad decided why didn't he take the bars round to some local shops? So he did that. And they seemed to be really interested. Well, they certainly weren't dismissive anyway, and some of them knew him anyway because he was a customer, And they just said, well, yeah, leave them with us, mate. We'll see what we can do. Leave them on the counter. And they were positive. And it was great. We couldn't quite believe it, to be honest.
And there's a funny story about that, isn't there? To do with the washing machine and the drill.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the washing machine, the drill. Yes. So I was round at a friend's, and the boys had been invited for tea, your brothers. And Dad rang up. He'd been to the shops that day, and he rang up and he said, Carl, you're not going to believe this. I've got 100 quid. I must admit, 100 quid in those days, that's a lot of money. So particularly on our impoverished income at the time. So I said, I just couldn't believe it. And I said, oh, that's marvellous. I really want a washing machine. We could use that. We could get a new automatic washing machine. That would be fantastic. And he said, what? Are you kidding? I'm not getting a washing machine. We need a drill so that I can do these things at home instead of having to, because at that point you had to go around to a mate's house and borrow a drill, and it was all a bit of a hassle. And I was so disappointed because I so wanted a washing machine.
So Dad won. He got the drill.
He did get the drill. And looking back, it was probably a good decision, I have to say. He won and he was right. So
buying the drill is the start of Gardner Tackle.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure if we still have that drill, but certainly we did have it for a very long time.
So then, how long after starting did you get your first international order? That must have been a big...
Well, yes, it was. I think we had a private customer come in. How long after? Well, we started in 1980s. I think it was 82 I think it was. A private customer from Holland came in, who we supplied. And then it wasn't long afterwards that a company in Holland, a shop, presumably, also ordered. And whether the two were related, whether the bloke was something to do with the shop or whether he knew the people in the shop, I don't know, or maybe it's just a coincidence. So 1982 it was, I'm pretty sure. So.
And that was Holland?
It was Holland, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, Netherlands, yeah.
It's still a good market today.
Absolutely, yes. And fish in a similar way to us, I think.
So this was all the buzzer bars. How did you get started with other products?
Okay, so that was all buzzer bars, and we had increased the range of buzzer bars. We'd sort of gone from 2 rods to 3 rods with 1 bar, different sizes, different lengths, etc. Some of them we started black as opposed to just the plain aluminium. And then one day, a very famous guy called Trevor Moss, some of the old timers will remember Trevor Moss. He had a tackle shop up in Gainsborough, Lincolnshire. And yes, called the Tackle Shop, and the Tackle Shop is still there, and it's now owned by Neville Fickling. But back in Trevor Moss's day, Trevor found out about the bars, presumably, and he rang up Dad and said, would we be able to do him a bank stick that was better than the old crimped edges bank sticks that were the only ones available at the time, and every time you put it into the soil and the dirt, they would clog up with dirt and open out, and they weren't really all that brilliant. Not fit for purpose, I think you would say these days. So they came up with the idea of a solid pointed bank stick. So Dad worked on that, did the solid pointed bank sticks, sent him one for approval, loved it, and it wasn't long, I think it was the same year, 1980, September time, so only about 3 months later, Trevor put in his first order, first of many I might add, for a whole load of bank sticks, solid pointed bank sticks. Yeah. And we still sell. Which we still sell.
The buzzer bars, all.
Yes, still do them. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so there you go. Thanks, Trevor. I doff my hat, sir. Well done. That was a really big thing, a big first, really, supplying a big shop, well-known mail order company.
Yeah. So at this stage, you were still mainly advertising classifieds in the Angling Times, Angling
Yes.
Mail as well, Angler's Mail?
Yes, and selling. By then we were selling to the local shops, and I guess we were gradually expanding outwards. And then there was a funny story when Dad decided he'd take some buzzer bars up to London. He was going up to London anyway. He was a motorcycle courier at the time. And he went up with the motorcycle, one pannier full of buzzer bars and the other full of whatever he was delivering. And he went round the shops in South London expecting to get the same reaction as he'd got in Surrey, Sussex, and and our Hampshire, our local environment. And oh no, they weren't having it. They were, well, they just flung them back across the counter really, and sort of, yeah, nah, I don't know them off for that, mate. Thank you.
Wow.
And that was that. I came back with nothing. So definitely no washing machine that day.
No drill, no washing.
No drill. No, nothing. It was very disappointing. Absolutely.
So that was 84, you're still working out of the cottage.
Yep.
When was it you moved into your first premises, out of the garden shed, basically?
God, well, to be honest, I can't quite remember when we moved. So obviously sometime after 84, we just outgrew everything, working out of the garages. I don't know, I would guess, well, Paul came, our now warehouse manager, and he came in 87, but he definitely worked out of the house and the garages because I can remember it. So I would say 88, 89, something like that, we moved to the first premises in Guildford. And gosh, we had those for years.
Yeah.
And Paul moved to there and ran it, basically, that side of it.
So over the years, we've obviously had a lot of staff coming and going, many of whom have stayed with us for a long time.
Yeah.
Lots of long-term members of staff who started
Yes.
in their early 20s.
And still with us now in their early 50s. So
Yeah, I'm
Let's
thinking of
go-
you, Martin.
yes, quite a few, yes, or now in their late 30s, coming on to 40. So you're talking probably been with us 15 or plus years.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
I
quite a
joined-
few of those.
I
Yeah,
joined the
she's
company
great.
in 2019.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Oh my gosh, so you've been with us 4 years then?
I've been with you for
Okay,
years, yeah.
right.
As an
Good job,
official
you know.
employee, that doesn't take account of all the moonlighting I did during my teens.
Yeah. Do you remember when you were a child? I used to drop you off at school, go down to the office. That was when we'd moved out of the shed and we had an office in Cranley. And then you would be able to walk from school down to you didn't have to cross any roads or anything, down to the office and meet me at, I don't know, 4:45 or whatever it was. And then you would go and make string.
20p a packet you paid me. 20p for a trade packet of string. And by Friday afternoon I'd have...
No, 20p a packet, wasn't
was
it?
it 20p? Yeah,
I
okay.
think so, not a trade pack.
Sorry, 20p a packet.
God.
And by Friday afternoon I'd have enough to buy myself a little toy for the weekend. And so it started, or at the right time of year, I would punch and bind catalogues.
Yes, oh, I've
So
forgotten about that,
I used
yes.
to make all the catalogues when I was
Yes, you
about
did.
10, 11, 12.
Yes,
Those kind of
yes.
ages, which is fun.
Yeah. And then, didn't you tell me that when you went to one of your jobs before you came to us, a story about the punching and
yeah.
binding a...
They used to send it out to send out things to a shop to be bound.
Right.
And I said, well, no, that's fine, I can do that. And nobody could understand how I had this random knowledge of how to bind catalogues and portfolios. So yeah, that stood me well for many years.
There you go, you see, the things you learn at Gardner
I
Tackle.
do. Oh dear. But no,
dear.
that was good memories actually of making string and various things. Gosh, all through my teens, all our friends.
Well, you used to
come
help
for
me
the
with
summer.
accounts sometimes. You used to come with me on a Saturday morning, do you
Yeah.
remember?
Yeah.
And because I'd got behind, particularly in the summer when we were really busy, and you would help me do
Yeah.
the receipts
Filing or
and
something.
yeah.
And all through the summer holidays, we used to sit with Beryl on a production line making, well, whatever, packaging things and
Yeah.
making rod pods and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
We always
Wow.
used to do that. many years.
Well, in fact, all your children, you've all helped in the company at some point or other.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And lots of our
Good
friends.
training, you see, for when you're grown up. There you
Absolutely.
go.
And then I joined the company properly on the books in 2019, which was the same year that we formed the EOT.
Yes.
Which was a huge, huge milestone in our recent history.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, Dad and I decided, what are we going to do when we leave this company? Can't go on forever. At some point, we'll have to retire. I was told about these employee ownership trusts, EOTs. Can't remember by whom now, financial advisor, accountant, I think probably both mentioned it actually. And I looked into it and thought, wow, this sounds brilliant. So basically we transferred Gardner Tackle over, didn't we? Or we created a trust.
Yeah.
Employee-owned trust, so that all the members of our staff, all our employees, are part owners of Gardner Tackle Limited, basically.
Absolutely, yeah. The staff hold the majority share of the company, which means the company is future-proofed forever.
Should carry on with the staff. The existing staff, the staff who are working for the company at the time. If anyone leaves, then they automatically leave the trust. Yeah. They don't carry on being a member of it.
It's different to a share scheme, yeah.
Yes, and so far seems to be working quite well.
I remember when we had the official paperwork and the official signing, and we all had a few bottles of bubbly, didn't we?
I remember. Well, it was at Christmas too, wasn't it? Yeah.
Celebration.
2019, just before COVID.
It was.
Outbreak. Good job we got it done before everything perhaps got stopped.
To celebrate it.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. We did. It was great, isn't it? Yeah.
And you're still with us.
I'm still here. Can't get rid of me.
No designs to retire.
Not really. I don't do so much now though. I'm part-time really, aren't I? Maybe 3/4 time.
I don't know what we'd do without you. You're still such a massive part of the company.
Well, I would miss it so much. I don't know what I'd do without. I like to see everybody. I like to have a bit of banter with the guys, and it's nice working with a load of young men. I mean, well, they seem young to me, although lots of them are in their 50s now, 40s, 50s. But
I'm sure they'd be pleased that you're calling them young.
Yes. I hope they don't call me old.
And now we look to the future and another 45 years of Gardner Tackle. The environment is hugely important to us, which is why we are changing as much of our packaging as possible to be FSC certified and sustainably grown, and for plastics to be made from recycled material, which can also be recycled again. We continue to work closely and support the Anglers National Line Recycling Scheme to rid our lakes, rivers and seas of discarded lines. We will continue to bring new products to the market, which will have a focus on quality and stay affordable. We'll stay loyal to our shops so the next generation of anglers can enjoy fishing as much as we do.